This is what everyone knows Newcastle for, football. But I'm going to tell you about something much, much better.
They want to know about Islam, we'll give them da'wah. They want to know what a Muslim does, we'll give them da'wah. When they want to hate on...
In 2012, I was a non-Muslim who walked into my local masjid. I met the brothers there from IDC. This was a team of brothers who told me about the message of Islam in detail. I took my shahada. The brothers, they didn't just leave me there. You know, they supported me, provided me new Muslim classes, and after all these years, I became the head of the new Muslim department here at IDC, teaching other new Muslims, supporting them and mentoring them, just like I was supported. IDC is not just your typical charity. We have our Islamic awareness stalls engaging with non-Muslims in our local city centre, and answering all their questions about Islam, public events and exhibitions for non-Muslims to come learn about Islam, masjid visits for the local community, school visits teaching non-Muslim kids and staff about Islam. We visit the elderly and spend time with them regularly to give them companionship, feeding the homeless every single week, giving them hot meals and advice. We make the children smile every single year by visiting them in the hospitals and giving them gifts. So many people have taken their shahada with us.
Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah.
Because of this, we then provide new Muslim classes for them and support them on their journey. Please, please, please give whatever you can. Do you know how much you can afford? Better than myself. Some of us can give £10, some of us can give £500, and every single person that accepts Islam, you will get a portion of that reward. The Prophet, peace be upon him, he said that charity does not decrease our wealth. So brothers and sisters, believe in those words and give for the sake of Allah. And Allah, inshallah, will increase it for you. Click the button and donate now.
They want to know about Islam, we'll give them da'wah. They want to know what a Muslim does, we'll give them da'wah. When they want to hate on our deen, we'll give them da'wah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. You're watching Newcastle Fast FM. This is the Late Show Live, and this is nearly end of Ramadan, boys. It's possibly the last odd night of Ramadan. Subhanallah, how quickly it's gone. Let me introduce our co-host, Brother Jamal. Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brother?
Hope you're well, inshallah, bro. Yeah, it's end of Ramadan is here pretty much, subhanallah. And you know, this is like the last night really for everyone out there to maximize the potential benefits in this blessed month. So obviously we've got this fantastic show tonight, and inshallah we're also going to get some donations coming in as well, I think, because people are going to be desperate to make the most of it, inshallah. So it should be a really good show today.
This is last chance saloon, Jamal. You got to make the most of it this night for rewards, charity, dhikr, dua. You know, this is why on this show, inshallah, people are going to have the opportunity to click on the link below, and then make their final donations. You never know. This could be Laylatul Qadr. Allah knows best.
Absolutely,
and you might get your rewards multiplied manyfold. So the reward of 1,000 months. You know, subhanallah. So this is the opportunity for everybody. Click on the PayPal link below and make your donation tonight, inshallah. Or you can go on to supportidc.com and make those last minute donations, you know, maximize the rewards while you have the chance. Absolutely. But good. So this is going to be an interesting show. I mean, Jamal, last night's show was hectic. Yeah. That was an interesting show.
Yeah.
But today's going to be interesting as well, inshallah, because we're going to talk about some stuff. In fact, I'm hoping to hear some very interesting facts, unknown facts about Muslims in Britain and Islam in Britain. So I'm very excited to introduce our guest for this evening, our dear brother. He's old school, you know, Jamal. He's from the old school crew as well. Yeah?
I know.
AbdulMaalik Tailor. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Alhamdulillah, good, man. You're from the 90s boys as well, yeah?
Yes, I am. I'm one of those ones. I'm from the 90s. That's absolutely
from the good old days.
He had some very valuable VHS tapes, recordings of Speaker's Corner, mashallah. So, you know, he's well old school, man.
You remember those days, yeah?
Yeah. Some people watching probably don't even know what a VHS is.
Yeah, that does happen. Yep. Some people are like, you know, the kids are thinking, what's that?
Yeah, it's very true. Let's introduce our guest, AbdulMaalik. Tell us a little bit about yourself, bro. Tell us, obviously you're a revert to Islam.
I am.
You have been involved in the dawah for such a long time.
Yep.
You tell us a little bit about your life pre-Islam, prior to Islam,
Okay.
about your grown up, your background, your history. Tell us a little bit about yourself, bro.
Sure.
Pre-Shahada.
I was born in London, UK, and I was a practicing Hindu. I was the most practicing Hindu in my family, as well as amongst my cousins as well. And I belonged to a Hindu sect, if you like, called Satya Sai Baba, that believed in multi-faithism. And, you know, they had a bit of a philosophy where no matter what faith you belong to, you still reach the top, the goal, which was paradise. So, for example, if you took, it didn't matter what, you know, by analogy, or something I do recall is that the example they would use is, a mountain has different paths to get to the peak. So it doesn't matter what path you take, you still get to the top. And it's like also, you know, God, Jesus, they were all one in the same. It's just different names, just like water can have different names in different languages, but in essence, it's all the same. So we had this type of setup, if you like. And I grew up in a semi-Jewish neighborhood, and I went to a Church of England school. And I was the one who, I was going to church as well. And I was the person putting up the hymn numbers in church as well. So I had a very nice exposure to the different faiths, if you like. However, when it came to Islam, in this sect, all we was told was that that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, prophesied this man God. And you know, we used to practice and celebrate the different religious festivals: Jewish, Buddhist, Sikh, Hindu, Christian. But when it came to Islam, what do you think happened? No celebration. No celebration whatsoever. So it was just you know, and it's say, you know, you realize after a while that this ain't making sense in terms of what you're practicing. And I did actually try to find out about Islam after I was going to a college on the opposite side of London. I had to wake up in the morning a bit more earlier, and I used to see these Muslims going to a mosque, a local mosque, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, initially it was a bit of like taking the mick out of them under my breath, thinking to myself, what is this that these guys can't they afford the razors with the big bushy beards, and what's with these long skirts they wear? Can't they afford a pair of scissors? What's going on here? But you know what happened? Day in, day out, I kept on seeing this. So you know what happened then? It hits me. Hold on a minute. These guys are praying at time they've been told to pray. Not like myself. I could pray when I wanted to wake up and do my pratna then. And that's, you know, that curiosity then to find out, well, what's going on here? Why are they doing this? That's what, you know, if you like, it started where the ball started rolling in terms of trying to find out about Islam. But then I went to my Pakistani friend. I asked him 3 times. I went round onto his house on 3 occasions. First time I can't remember what excuse he made. Second time he said, I'll have to have a bath. I go, what for? He's just to read a book. And also I think he meant to do wudu. And I thought to myself, boy, that's a bit like OTT, just to read a book. So I left and I came back after a few weeks. I said, fine, I'll have a bath or whatever. Right? Just give me the Quran. I just couldn't understand, why is it my Muslim friend not willing to give a Quran to me just to read? No, just there and then I'll be happy to read it. Not take it outside of his house or anything like that. But that's when I asked him the 3rd time. He goes to me, well, you know, the Quran's wrapped up, kept on top shelf, you know, so it doesn't become dirty. And my mother's the most religious and practicing person in the family, and I'll have to ask her. And like, I was like, yeah, Auntie G's just next door. I can hear her. And he goes, no, I can't do that because she's got a guest and everything like that. It'd be seen as disrespectful. And I thought to myself, you know what? I get it. I'm gone. That was it. So I didn't get my first Quran from the Muslims I knew. It actually came from my Mauritian Hindu friend that I did pilgrimage with to India to see this man God, Satya Sai Baba, and he actually threw it at me as well. And it was Abdullah Yusuf Ali Quran. So that's what I was into. But then I was like thinking, thy, thee, thou. I'm thinking, okay, let's get back to Shakespeare now.
That was the old school English translation.
Old school one, yes, absolutely.
I think that was the most popular translation of the Quran back in the days, because there wasn't as many varieties like we get today. Basically, you've got a few different options, but I think back in them days that was the only one that was printed en masse. Anyway,
yes. I mean, we had the Marmaduke Pickthall one, but that wasn't widely available.
No. not only did we have to learn how to read Old English, but we also had to count in Roman numerals as well, didn't we? Because it had that.
Oh yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's true. Isn't it?
So it's English and
Do
maths.
you
we
remember,
learn at the
do you
same
remember the
time.
audio? Do you remember the audio translations? They sounded just like you were reading it in like this old. It sounded like this old, like upper class Englishman.
Yeah.
Reading it in English and stuff.
You're probably an Uncle G though.
Say again?
You're probably an Uncle G though.
Probably. With like immaculate English and stuff.
Yeah, the little mashallah. Yeah, I remember them very well, really well.
Yeah. But you know what happened at this time? For me, I was quite heavily dyslexic as well. So, you know, I had some Dawah literature. I had, was it Bilal Phillips's Fundamentals of Tawheed book as well. And I remember it was taking me 20 minutes just to read a page of Fundamentals of Tawheed. That's how long that was, you know, my reading was taking. And, you know, but now, you know, people don't notice the difference in terms of my reading. So obviously vastly, you know, improved. But that was a trial in itself. And I thought, like, you know, do I really want to be reading or whatever? But, you know, as I say, I was trying to mainly kind of persevere to kind of continue reading.
Yeah. I think it's amazing actually that the fact that you struggled with it and you still persevered with it to read the Quran. And even though that first experience that you probably had might not have been the best experience, you know, when your friend didn't give you a copy of the Quran and you wanted to read it, right? So that can be off-putting for many people.
No, absolutely.
I think so many people, like neighbors, there's a lot of Muslim neighbors that don't understand or realize the obligation of dawah. So therefore, you know, this is why they sort of like clutch things like the Quran close to their chest and sort of thinking, no, this is not for you. You're not, you know, you're not ready for this, or you're not in a fit state for it. But
well, I think in this case, he saw me as not being, what's it called, a bark, not being clean.
Okay.
So all the word I think for
Subhanallah.
For not being clean.
That's right.
You know?
Yeah, not being pure, not being clean. I think this is one of the many misconceptions that people have, especially from amongst the Muslims, when it comes to, and I hold a similar view in the sense of not about the bark thing, but I hold quite a strong view that we shouldn't just give out Qur'ans to anyone and everyone, right?
Yeah.
I'm of the view that we should give Qur'ans to those who we know are going to read it. Yeah. Meaning, if somebody's interested, even if after a conversation, and they turn around and say, yeah, I would like to read that, then of course you have to give them a copy of the Quran. Even sometimes, having said that though, when you give a copy of the Quran to a random stranger who would never have even thought about picking up the Quran, but genuinely will read it, you know, that can open up somebody's heart as well. But you know, there's a fine balance, I think, that you have to have. But with this brother, I think, may Allah guide him, he didn't know any better. And that's why, in his view, you have to be pure to read even the English translation and stuff like that. So it's one of the things that we as IDC are very keen people understand what the religion of Islam is. And we say, let the Quran speak for itself. You know, let the non-Muslims understand Islam by the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or the translation of the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Because this is something that I had some Dawah literature that was saying, you know, things like this. And I thought to myself, well, you know what? I'm going to actually research it myself. So I started doing comparisons between Hinduism, Christianity, and Islam. So one of the things like in favor of like Islam was that it was revealed in the Arabic language, a living language. When I looked at Christianity, who did I knew Aramaic? I asked around, you know, people hierarchy in terms of Christianity, and in Hinduism, I could not find anyone who knew Sanskrit. I didn't know anyone. In fact, I didn't know anyone who knew Sanskrit. I didn't know anyone who knew Aramaic. And even to this day, when I have conversations with Christians, I say to them, find me a Bible and give me the Bible in Aramaic. And so, you know, 9 times out of 10, they're thinking I'm saying Arabic. I said, no, Aramaic, the language that Jesus bin Maryam actually spoke on Islam. But, you know, where is it? You know, so that, you know, when I looked at in terms of the language as well, he went in favor of Islam. The concept of the Trinity I looked at as well, the Council of Nicaea, 325 AD. That's when it was established. We believe as Muslims, yes, the early Christians that were upon the monotheism of Isa bin Maryam, we classify them as Muslims. And what happened afterwards, generally from the Council of Nicaea, that's when, if you like, the doctrine basically changed. And Hinduism, in Trinity, you said you've got three-headed God, but then in Hinduism you've got multiple gods. So what was the difference in this case?
Yeah, subhanAllah, and I think it's one of the reasons why getting those clarifications are so important, that people have these conversations and be confident having these conversations as well. Don't be like, there's no shyness when it comes to showing the beauty of Islam and showing what Islam actually stands for. And as the brother said yesterday, rightly, that Islam has the solutions to many of the modern day problems that we're facing today, right? So it's one of the reasons why tonight I'm going to constantly encourage all of our viewers to support the Islamic Diversity Center, who is at the forefront of giving dawah in the northeast of England. And without the support of your du'as, your donations, your moral support, your volunteering support, we're not able to achieve the things that we can achieve in the front line. So you saw the video at the beginning. We're going to play the video at the end of the show, and we're going to encourage everybody to please click on the link below and donate tonight, inshallah. So this is an opportunity for everybody. Anyway, let's get to your shahada, bro, and life after shahada. Let's discuss about what was it that give you the final step to accept Islam, and then what was your first experiences as a new Muslim?
No, in terms of the final steps, I think the more and more I kept to researching, perhaps that's where my interest started in terms of more my research. But it was I always came back to Islam as being the part that had the answers. But then, like, I thought to myself, how about let me go and speak to somebody of knowledge? And I went to a Turkish mosque, but then I realized that the person there only knew Turkish and I actually knew only English. And I thought, how are we going to communicate? But then there's a lecturer who came along and started translating. I think it got lost in translation or somewhere about me wanting to become a Muslim. And I thought to myself, well, how much more am I going to keep looking at Islam, doing comparisons? And I thought to myself, yeah, okay, I want to become Muslim now. So then there was mashallah, whatever. And there was another discussion about me having a bath. And I'm thinking to myself, what is this with the bath? Can somebody please tell me? Also, I think they meant like having a wudu, ghusl, or whatever. But the Imam said, look, he doesn't need to tell you any of that. He can just say his shahada. So I went into the prayer hall and I sat at the back, and all I could see, for eternity, for as I was concerned at that time, that there were people just going up and down doing the extra Qarawi prayers. But at that time I didn't have a clue when's it going to finish, or how long it's going to be, etc. And but then it eventually finished, and I went forward and I said the shahada. It was explained to me the five pillars of Islam and Imam, which obviously I had read up upon as well. And I said the shahada, and that's when people started hugging me. The men folks started kissing me. That was a bit uneasy, I've got to be honest, but it was on the cheeks, not the lips. And but you did feel that sense of like brotherhood, which if you like, in my previous days, I hadn't actually experienced as such, that physical type of bond, and it was different. It was an amazing experience, basically. But once, by the way, this is actually in Ramadan now. And the previous year I'd fasted in Ramadan, and I was washing my dishes and putting them away. And I returned back after Maghrib, so nobody knew that I was fasting. But now the time when I've actually done Ramadan this time, took Shahada, it's like, well, I had to fast, and I was fasting, I was waking up, I was having my Zuhur meal, and I was leaving the dishes this time in the sink. So a bit naughty at that time. But living in a Muslim community in Walthamstow, East London, my family members kind of gathered that I was fasting, and it initially started off from the parents as verbal abuse, then it went to actual physical abuse as well. And we had a pet dog, and in the dog's lead was used on me. I had glass thrown at me. I had alcohol being attempted to be poured down my mouth and everything like that. It was I even had boiling water chucked over me by other family members as well, and that type of physical abuse didn't really stop, and that was quite it's disheartening. It's coming from the family, but you're obviously reading stories in terms of what happened when you looked at those situations then, which was the worst of the two. But now looking back at it, I think somebody said to me, "Do you think that you would have been killed?" My honest answer would be yes. because what happened at this time was that I had actually.
And this was from your family, yeah?
I'm sorry.
This was from your family members.
Birth family, yes. And you know, the other part to deal with this is that by this time I was actually with the police as well. And just as a disclaimer, nothing to do with the police now, so don't worry. And you know, even being with the police, certain people would think that's a form of protection, but in this case, it wasn't. That's how much hatred they had.
So, AbdulMaalik, what was it that kept you steadfast at that point then? Why did you not just throw it away and just say, this is not worth it, I'm going to just go back to what I was before? What kept you together with that?
A lot of people do ask me about this. I mean, this was my first lifetime experience, but what happened was that I couldn't. The way I say is that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had given me the greatest gift possible, and that was my deen. And I've not looked back upon it. Because even recently, my mother died, and I spoke to my maternal aunt, and we had an honest discussion as well. Because my mother, although she was born a Hindu, she appears to have died upon Christianity. So she tried to introduce my aunt, her sister, to Christianity as well. And me and my aunt were discussing this as well. My aunt did actually say, "Do you think, even with like your next life experience that you had in terms of my messy divorce and domestic violence that was perpetrated onto me, are you still content of being a Muslim, etc. as well?" And I said, yes. I won't give up on Islam. It's like, and that's what I say, yaqeen, it's a certainty, basically. I'm not going to give it. No matter what trial I will go through, I'll still remain upon it.
SubhanAllah. I mean, it's interesting because on the one hand, you mentioned earlier on that with your belief in Sai Baba and the belief that all paths lead to the top of the mountain, and all religions, you can choose whichever one. But then as soon as you became Muslim and you accepted Islam,
this
all of that went out the window.
When I went to India to do a pilgrimage, when I came back, I was actually seen as a person, I was sharing my experiences, giving talks and this, that, whatever, and people were loving it. People saw me as one of the blessed people. And but as soon as I became Muslim, I was the dirt, basically, of the earth. And you may recall that there is this the Sahaba, escapes me now, was it Abdullah Cohen, who actually he was the son of the leading rabbi, etc. And the people around him said that he was such and such whatever, we believe in him, and this, that, whatever, comes out from behind the curtain. Exactly the same scenario it was. How we ended up, it was just total. We were basically filthy. In this case, I was just totally looked down upon. People didn't care. They didn't want to hear me. They didn't want to. People wanted to make me reconvert to Hinduism. And even when my father died, that's when, if you like, the great family relatives found out, and they said, we need to make him Hindu again. Others were saying, well, no, he doesn't need to die, but he does need to fulfill his father's last funeral rituals, etc. And I was the only son, and within Hinduism, it's the eldest son who's supposed to fulfill the last rites. And I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it.
Wow, that is deep. That is actually really deep. So it's basically, what is the reason? The question I've got going on in my head now is, why is there so much hatred? What is the reason for people to have this reaction to from your community, when somebody becomes Muslim, when you became Muslim? Why is that there? What is the background behind that? What's the situation with that?
I think just to give a bit of perhaps a wider context, when we look at converts to Islam, there is what we can say there's a convert hierarchy. Like if you perhaps happen to be a white convert, you can get the least amount of abuse. Black converts, you may get some abuse, but as I say, the brown converts get the most amount of abuse, and it will be physical. It can be people trying to kill you as well. And there have been cases of where former Hindus who've converted to Islam have been killed. Like at the moment, people don't recognize it as Hindu extremism for some strange reason. It's not looked at that.
And former Sikhs as well. I've heard of
Sikhs as well.
Instances where brothers and sisters who have converted from Sikhism face similar, if not worse.
I mean, I know examples from 25 years ago, 20 years ago, 15, 10, 5, of where former Sikhs and former Hindus have had to escape from their house because they had family members with baseball bats, hockey sticks, cricket bats at either side of the road, waiting to give them
and swords.
Swords as well. Yeah, sorry, yeah, and swords as well. And this does exist in modern day Britain, but nobody's discussing it.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's crazy, and I've done a number of safeguarding courses by the local authorities, etc. And I raise this with them when it comes to domestic violence as well as what's known as spiritual abuse. At the moment, safeguarding courses, when they're looking at spiritual abuse, they tend to it's mostly looked at jinn, witchcraft, and FGM, etc. They don't look at this part to do with when one converts to a different faith. That's just seen as, just normal crime. At most, it may be seen as domestic violence.
Subhanallah.
Islamophobia, actual spiritual abuse.
It's just ignored, basically. Is that what you're saying?
It's just ignored, absolutely. And, I have other professionals, who are there. Once I explain to them that work I do in terms of mentoring different Muslim converts, and as well as leading some workshops, etc. And that's when they become more comfortable and they want to know about it. And they say, look, we don't know how to approach these new Muslim converts. When it goes, they recognize there's a lot of youth embracing Islam, and that to them, they're fearful of it because we don't know what to do. And sometimes the youth are being referred to prevent because if they don't do it, then there's a repercussion upon them that they've not made the referral. And perhaps it could be a tick box exercise. Yes, we made X amount of referrals to prevent. This is happening. This is reality, but there's no discussion about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because on one hand, and this is the I guess the double standards to some extent. But on the one hand, when we hear about stories of Muslims leaving Islam, becoming ex-Muslims,
yes,
they get a lot of media attention. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And this is the interesting thing. They'll get put on the front of a TV. They'll even get funding if they need to. They'll get protection. They'll get whatever for fear of reprisals.
Yes.
But yet, when it's the other way around, when people accept Islam and they get kicked out of their homes, they get abused from family members, physically, verbally, and psychologically. They may go through some extreme hardships and even criminal activities towards them. No one says a thing.
You're absolutely spot on. You're absolutely spot on. But having said that, there is a bit of a situation when it comes to the brown converts. They're not prepared to speak about their experiences, and that's a challenge in itself. It's only my number is it's kind of like a referral number to speak to people who were Hindus or Sikhs, or potential Hindus and Sikhs as well. And even for people who believe Islam to be the truth. So we're talking about pre-conversion. They want to embrace Islam, but are fearful of it and the repercussions can have. That in itself is a vulnerability, and that in itself is a crime. But people don't realize that. But this is not what we get. What doesn't get relayed to the media, and it's a difficult situation. Why is it? The media would prefer ex-Muslims to be given all the media attention. However, those Muslims who are facing those trials of being, I just put it plain and simple, near enough being killed or being killed, they're not being given the media attention. No, there's no discussion. The only thing in terms of Muslim converts where we get some sort of limelight is when it's related to terrorism and radicalization, as opposed to the positive work and the trials that we face internally. But people don't even realize the path that converts can lead, the slippery slope to radicalization. There is this part where if Muslims converts it's a fact, they face great isolation. Isolation in itself is a vulnerability. Vulnerability can lead to radicalization. But when I explained it, there was once upon a time I was a key community advisor to the Metropolitan Police, the London Police, and I was explaining this to specialists and senior police officers. Again, I wasn't paid at all. I had my own independence, so I could speak my mind, and there was no travel, there was absolutely nothing. So I had my own complete independence. When I was telling them all this, they know what they said to me. AbdulMaalik, you're the first person to raise the issue of the Muslim converts to us, because we've had historical all these meetings with Muslim organizations, Uncle G's, Auntie G's, whatever, but no one's raised the issue of the Muslim convert community.
Subhanallah.
You see, we had a guest on a few days ago, a week ago, who you know, they set a little sort of an organization for a section of the revert community, and it was a bit of a, I suppose, like maybe like a debate really in terms of whether there was a need for something within his own community or section of the community. But for yours, I mean, I can see a dire need maybe for having something like a support group or something like that for Hindu reverts or for Sikh reverts. I mean, does anything like that exist to your knowledge?
No, not as far as I know. I mean, there's people who have tried to set something up, but even to get people together, even on a WhatsApp group, is difficult, because what it is, they have fear that you know, these potential people from the Hindu or Sikh background, potential to become Muslim, or those who have become Muslim, it's always that fear of that repercussion.
Yeah,
and that, you know, it's something that's embedded from you know, from childhood. You've got to always remember what the community will say. You know what the community say. You know, you go and do this, you probably give me a heart attack, I die, and everything like this. You know, what would this uncle say? What would that auntie say? You know what what shame you will bring to the family, diversity, shalom, etc., to the family. That takes priority.
The dishonor. Yeah. And I think there's an interesting story, Jamal, that I can share with you guys as well, because I remember, obviously, with our organization, we do a lot of new Muslim support and new Muslim support programs. So we were working with a community down in the Midlands, and this particular community has quite a disproportionate amount of Sikh reverts, because they're in the middle of a Sikh community. And literally, he was saying to me, our center, we have your normal front door, then you have a back door which leads you through the basement to come into the building. And he said all of the Sikh converts would always use the back door coming through the basement to come to the classes, because they couldn't be seen to be coming into the Islamic Center. And there was a genuine fear that if they got caught, and it was risky as well for them, but their iman was so strong that they wanted to learn about their deen, but they had to take precautions. So in order to come to the classes, they would come through the back, through the basement, upstairs into the classroom, and then leave in the same way as well, so that they didn't get caught. But at the back of their mind, they were always thinking about, this is risky. If we get caught, this is going to happen. That's going to happen. And this is why, for me, you know, with what we set up here in the North in Islamic Diversity Center, is a new Muslim support program, which is tailored to deal with all these different circumstances for new Muslims when they come to Islam. And this is why you'll find we have it's in the name as well, Diversity Center, right? Such a diversity of volunteers and reverts in order to support and take care of the new Muslims and whatever, you know, background and situation. I mean, we're supporting a new Muslim sister. She's just recently made a video. Maybe I can share that tonight. But she's originally from Brazil, and she became Muslim, and she's come over as an asylum seeker and things like that. But she's come from a background where there was no Muslims in her village at all, right? So she has had her own problems when coming to Islam, and the acceptance of that as well. So this is why, again, I'm gonna plug it. I'm gonna keep plugging it every so often. We need people to support the Islamic Diversity Center by donations as well as dua, so that we can continue supporting the new Muslims with all of their different backgrounds and all of their different issues that they're facing. So it's one of the things I'm glad you mentioned, AbdulMaalik, because, you know, we do talk about the hierarchy within reverts, right? And the from the white community, the black community, and there are so many problems within that, but no one talks about the brown revert.
This
That's very true.
It's also the fact, he's like, you know, I get regularly, a lot of people know that I'm kind of a bit connected to the revert community, and they would, you know, send an inquiry, oh, could you recommend a revert speaker? And I said, well, what are you looking for? Because I know what's going to be. They want the white face there, or the black face. I go, what about an Asian face? Because we're not interested. And you think, why not? And the other thing is, when it comes to black reverts, when it comes to, it's the same as well. When it comes to the black reverts, what they tend to do is there's this stereotyping image that okay, let's get somebody who's a black who comes from the gangster background, because he'd be able to relate to the youth. Well, why are you only showing that as well? There's plenty of other black reavers who didn't come from a gangster background. Why not put them forward?
Exactly. But even Jamal, I'm sure you can testify to this as well. Even when it comes to marriage, when brothers or sisters come to me and say, "Can you help me find to get married?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Give me your profile. Let me know what you're looking for." Yeah, I want to marry a revert sister, or I want to marry a revert brother. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I've got some reverts that you could look into. But what they're actually meaning is, I want a white revert sister or a white revert brother. Because I say, yeah, I've got a revert sister, and I won't tell them that she's black until closer to the time. It's like, then you hear all the excuses, 101 excuses. Oh no, I didn't mean that, and didn't this, and whatever, blah blah blah. Jamal, I'm sure you can relate to that as well, bro.
Yeah, definitely, bro. I mean, in the end, it became so tiresome for me that when someone would say that to me, I just push them to one side. I just thought, okay, I'm not even going to attempt to help that person.
Yeah, me too.
Wasting my time, obviously. You find a lot of them coming forward, and then there'll be no. And even if you was to find a white revert for them, still wouldn't be good enough sometimes. And they have to be of a certain caliber, a certain type. So yeah, I only sort of dealt with serious people that just wanted to get married to someone who was decent, and it became much less of a headache.
There was one brother who is from Indian background. He became Muslim, and he was looking to get married. And obviously, he's a revert as well. He came from Hinduism to Christianity to Islam, and he's originally from India. He came here to study in Newcastle. Same sort of thing. It's like a sister says, "Yeah, I wouldn't mind marrying a revert brother." I'm like, "Okay, I got a good revert brother. He's actually a really good brother as well, mashallah." Same with that sister, the black sister that I was talking about. Really good, practicing, pious people. And it was like, yeah, I want a revert sister or revert brother. And then I say, okay, here you go. As soon as they find out they're black or brown, that's it. They're not interested. And I'm like, but I thought you wanted to marry for the deen, right? And it's like, yeah, but and then there's all these excuses that come, and I'm like, I'm like,
what happens is sometimes before that, even sometimes before that, there is this assumption as well that reverts themselves don't have any culture, and that's why born Muslims want to marry them. There is also this misconception as well. Oh, if you marry a revert, we don't have to deal with in-laws.
Oh yeah, very true.
Well,
you know what, 18 before we there's no cure for stupid. Fantastic.
That basically sums it up nicely.
Yeah.
There's quite a few comments actually we'll come to next, inshallah.
I wanted to just say, AT, just regarding IDC. I mean, look, the viewers who are watching now, they may or may not know this, but I'm not a part of IDC, except for in the heart. Now, the thing is, I really want to see brothers like Suleiman Ibrahim, who joined us yesterday for the first time. He's here again with us today. Barry Orlandi. We have many regular viewers, right? I'd like to see your support today, and I'd like to see it in one of two ways, right? The first way is, if you have already made a donation to IDC, then put it on here, but maybe put a sign up, a little message up here as well. I want you to also be our fundraisers today, right? I want you to make some posts on here encouraging people to donate. If you've donated already, then alhamdulillah, that's really great of you. But if you haven't, then please make a donation today, and also put a message up as well. The second thing is to please contact someone that you know. Share this live stream today and get someone to donate as well, because then you can get some rewards for that. Remember, what IDC are doing, it's not like mediocre stuff. And I can say this because I'm not part of IDC. It's not mediocre stuff. We saw guests who came on this show who were talking about, having their own little separate groups and stuff like that. Well, we have IDC dealing with everyone. And therefore, you have to donate today, inshallah. And this is the 29th night, so you can get double rewards for it, inshallah. A multitude of rewards. So please, Suleiman, Barry, and all the others, Muslim BB, everyone else that's watching, let's see your support today, inshallah. Right, I'm going to start up now because I know we're going to soon get on to really juicy stuff of
before we move on, can you read some of the comments, please?
Sure.
Bro, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's do the comment, and then we're going to go into Muslim history tours, inshallah.
Inshallah. So we got Khan Afghani saying Assalamu alaikum to all my brothers. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Interesting topic. Jazakallah khair, guys, for your efforts, mashallah. Sulaiman Ibrahim, who was misbehaving yesterday, but mashallah is back and he's really with us today, alhamdulillah, and I'm really glad you're back as well, mashallah, bro. Jazakallah khair. He said, interesting topic. I think I said that already, didn't I? Yeah, that's fine. Was the next one? Some of Newcastle Fast FM, some of the people of knowledge stated that if one of the odd nights fall on the night of Friday, it's more likely to be Laylatul Qadr. Sheikh Ibn Baz, tonight is the 29th night and the night of Friday, Jummah. Maximize rewards tonight. If you're looking to donate in charity tonight, please consider the Islamic Diversity Centre. Donating just £35 on this night could be equivalent to £1 million. We did the maths. So to donate £35, go to paypal.me, Islamic Diversity. Yes, subhanAllah, this is the last night. This is the time when you can actually make an investment. Trust me, you've got some money. You can use a bit of money. You can spend a bit of money. Tonight is the night to do it, and you won't regret it, subhanAllah. There's many, many examples of when someone makes a donation and they get the rewards for it afterwards. It's like an investment. Sulaiman Ibrahim, police are very overstretched. They don't care at the moment for such low-level crime. They are even releasing prisoners due to COVID, etc.
Well, we're not talking about now anyway.
Right?
We're not talking about now in lockdown. We're talking about pre-lockdown.
Yeah, exactly. He also says, also the reverts should use wisdom. The prophets are during his time, they converted secretly 14 years until they all became very strong as a community. I mean, that's not such a bad thing in terms of if you're in an endangered, I was going to say species, but if you're an endangered part of the community, that's not really a bad comment, really, because, obviously the community is growing, especially the Hindu revert and the Sikh revert community is growing. So, yeah, obviously, maybe that is already happening, actually. Maybe they are being secretive and, it is the case, I think. Yeah, definitely.
There are some reverts who do that. They keep it private, but there are some reverts who just can't, and that's the decision that they made, that they have to make it public. And there's no right or wrong answer to this. You know your situation better. If you think it's going to be the best for you to make it public, then you're going to make it public. If you think it's going to be the best for you to make it secret, and there's only so long you can make it secret for. You're not going to give you so many examples of reverts who have been found out, who have been caught praying salah in their homes by their parents or by other members, and then it's come out in the time when they weren't ready for it to come out as well. So I guess it comes down to the individual. Maybe AbdulMaalik can expand upon that a little bit. It comes down to the individual to know what's right for them and things like that.
It does come down to the individual. But one thing I do find is that they are living in such a fear that they don't even want to speak about it and not realize, because they're completely internalizing it, it's causing them more harm than good. And so sometimes they do need to be given a reality check, if you like. And I speak to people like this, and I explain to them my whole situation, and then they realize, hold on a minute, what they're going through is not as bad as what I had gone through or other people. They think they're really very much isolated. We say to them, no, you do have the support that does exist out there. So just actually, take that step forward and actually getting yourself out of it. You can see sometimes it's destroying them. Them being a secret Muslim, and they feel as if they can't share their experience because it's been shut them about that personal journey of them.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true. Okay, so we've had a couple of donations come in, alhamdulillah, since we've started. We've got one donation of £15 has come in via the PayPal link. Another one by £5. So alhamdulillah, keep them coming in, guys. Make sure you get your rewards, and only you know how much you can afford. So we're not putting any stipulating that you have to pay 35 or 50 or 100 or whatever. If you can pay 5, give 5. If you can pay more, give more. Whatever you can afford, Allah will reward you for your intention and multiply your donation tonight anyway, inshallah. So whatever you can give. Right, so AbdulMaalik, let's get to your actual organization, Muslim History Tours. So you've been doing this for a while now. I've still yet to come on it. When I'm in London next, inshallah, after this lockdown, after this whole thing.
I thought you might bring the whole Newcastle crowd down, take out.
I might bring a crew, I might actually bring a crew down. I might do that.
I can recommend it myself. I've been on it, so that's why I can definitely give recommendation.
Mashallah. Mashallah. Yeah, so tell us about your organization, Muslim History Tours. What's the vision behind it? What's the purpose behind it? What do you do?
Okay, now I had, from my university days, I had knowledge in terms of looking at Muslim heritage of Britain, and that's what I prefer to specialize in since the beginning days, as opposed to looking at worldwide Muslim heritage. And what I found was very little that was being discussed with regards to Muslim heritage within Britain. If you looked at Europe, people tend to look at the Ottomans or Andalus as well. But as I say, the British Muslims virtually had no knowledge about their own history, where they were living. We have Muslim tourists who are coming to Britain, except they're not discovering about the Muslim heritage that exists here that goes back 1,300 years ago. And you think to yourself, hold on a minute, why is this? And even when we had Al Jazeera TV, they filmed our first tour. I made clear on there the reason why it was set up, because if you were to go to YouTube, type in Muslims in Britain, what we were seeing, X amount of years ago, it'd be like characters who'd be holding placards, kill this person, behead this person. You think to yourself, is that an actual positive image of Muslims in Britain? No, it's not. And I had the knowledge, and I thought to myself, well, let's do something with it. So I actually started doing workshops about Muslim heritage in Britain. Vikings and Muslims, Tudors and Muslims, Victorians and Muslims, a normal timeline presentation. Then within a matter of a few months, I realized, hold on a minute, I could just make this into a walking tour. So that's what I did. I got myself professionally qualified, and I was told I was the first Muslim in Britain to qualify to become a professionally qualified tour guide. So I actually made history myself. And then, I think now I've got about 25 different walking tours, and there's 2 bus tours as well. And I always wanted to take it one step further. So even from there, then it was like to have a guided tour on the River Thames, where you could supplement it with like an afternoon tea, lunch, or dinner, etc. So that's how I kept on building it. But it was primarily for providing a positive image with regards to Muslims in Britain, what they had done, what they had contributed, and also there is this mindset that does exist in the vast majority of Muslims, that we believe that after the loss of Andalus, this is right up to the year 1500, we have not contributed nothing to world civilization. And it was also, as I say, just Western Europe, where during the Renaissance period, that's where all the contribution came from. And this is the mindset. We just need to stop believing in this. We get right-wing people who would actually pick on this and attack us about it. But we ourselves need to learn our own history, where we are, in order to counter this and the wider Islamophobia as well. And when you look at the Muslim heritage in Britain, in Europe, in fact, it continued after the loss of Andalus, but we just don't know about it. And we are wondering ourselves, why don't we know about it? It's ourselves to blame.
Of course. How long? What has been the Muslim contribution to Britain? How long ago was it? The first interactions between the Muslims and Britain. Okay,
the first interaction we have is to do with a gold coin, which has the Shahada on it, and that's to do with King Offa. King Offa was the king of Mercia, which is it was a big kingdom in England that used to border along Wales, and King Offa actually built what's known as Offa's Dyke as well, a barrier between England and Wales, and he actually built defences against the Vikings as well. And this would be going back to about the 771 as well. This is when this coin was actually minted. This gold coin was minted, and you think to yourself, hold on a minute, when did Prophet Muhammad die? And when did this king mint the coin? And you think to yourself, there's not much difference, in terms of the actual years, 1,300 years ago.
Wow.
But that's the earliest connection we have. But from there, there's so much that materializes as well. And even when the Muslims used to rule modern-day Spain, it's supposed to be Andalus, but we tend to use Spain. But in reality, it was Portugal, it was parts of France, and Islam had gone into parts of Switzerland before Islam had gone to the Balkans as well. So imagine that. Islam went to Switzerland before it went to the Balkans. And what you find is during this time, this was the hub of European learning as well. Well, people are not European. People used to come from, as I say, from eastwards as well, from southwards as well as non-Muslims flocking there as well. And that was a place where even certain people, they would even travel from this country, like in the 1100s, 1200s, they would go to Paris, and they didn't find it, too much intellectually challenging, if you like, in terms of the knowledge. And then they went on to Toledo, to the places that were being ruled by the Muslims, and that's where they actually found it more beneficial. They brought back knowledge to Britain as well, or England at that time as well. So,
Okay.
What's happened.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And if we were to look at some of the interactions from King Offa up until when was the first Muslim community established and settled in the UK, would you say, from your reading?
Okay.
Research?
Now, there has been a suggestion that when the Muslims were ruling Andalus, that for example, Seville was being attacked by the Vikings, and they did actually manage to succeed in taking over Seville. That's when the Muslims regrouped and repelled them. But then, the Muslims said, well, the Vikings are attacking us too much. Let's send an envoy to discuss like a peace treaty with them. And it's been suggested that in the 900s, that this Muslim may have come to Britain. Sorry, I should say at this time England. Britain didn't used to exist. To England. So that was in the 900s. But then even if you go to the time of the Crusade period, we have even some suggestions that there were some Muslims that may have existed here, for example, in Wiltshire, where they were using their Latin names, of which one of the names I recall at the moment was Abu Bakr, and they were stonemasons as well. And when you look at this time period as well, you do find, like in Salisbury Cathedral, which is in Wiltshire as well, it's been discovered that the beams they have Arabic numerals on it. So people are wondering, hold on a minute, how do these beams have Arabic numerals on it? There must have been, a group of people that had knowledge of Arabic in order to have actually wrote these Arabic numerals down. So there's some evidence even during the Crusade period, or even like the 1200s as well, where there may have been Muslims as well. One easy way to perhaps remember it is like, you may remember Robin Hood and his merry men, yeah?
Yes.
There's actually a Muslim character in there. Morgan Freeman, who plays a Muslim character. Back in the 80s, there used to be Nasser, who was played by an Irish actor as well. So you think some people have suggested that these were actually in the History Review magazine. So somebody wrote in there, said that when the historian wrote in there, said that these people were originally around at the 1066 Battle of Hastings, and they were protecting Hastings. But when the Normans came over, they retreated up northwards. Etc. So there is that possibility. How truthful it is a different case at the moment, but there is that suggestion by some historians that have actually suggested it as well. But then even if you go, there have been Muslims, even in the 1500s as well. Some of them were working for the royal family in England. King Henry VIII. You had John Black as well, who was a trumpeter. It's where he wears a turban, as well as it was known that he came from North Africa as well. So then you also have the entertainers in the kingdoms in Scotland as well, and as well as there was a kingdom called Dalrymple as well. They were having exchanges with Muslims as well. And it's been said that Muslims came over into Scotland during this Dalrymple kingdom. You also then, if you look at the time of what we would call over here we call it the pirates. But there's a whole decolonization by the word, are they privateers or pirates, etc. That's another discussion. But there were English pirates as well who were Muslims in reality. And
English
we have
pirates.
English pirates, like John Ward, and he's a character that's been Hollywoodified into what's the Pirates of the Caribbean character? Jack Sparrow. Yes, Sparrow. Yeah. It's after John Ward. But then you also had the Ottomans. They came over to Britain. Look, there are some Muslim historians, and I've heard them as well, that they state that the Ottomans never made it to Britain. And I said, no, that's wrong. They did make it to Britain. And they say perhaps, okay, well, they didn't come militarily. They did. And there's an island in the Bristol Channel, which was used, called Lundy Island, which was used as a regional Ottoman base as well. And, it belongs to England. But there for 5 years, they were, occupying this island as well. So we had a community on Lundy Island as well, which people don't know about.
Right.
But, there's even as we go along, then with the East India Company, ruling half the world and plummeting the riches of the countries as well. Muslims were coming back, as it was known as Alaska sailors, and around the Docklands or other shipping locations as well. They had communities of Muslims there from the 1600s onwards as well. So there are but then where there's more been written about is like Woking community, Liverpool community. That's where you perhaps at the moment we have the most amount that's been written. But we've had Moroccan ambassadors coming here with their own little communities, where it's been said that they were doing their own halal chicken as well. So there's probably some tagines there in 1600s in Britain as well. They were facing eastwards doing the salah as well. This has been written about.
Subhanallah. I think that you mentioned Liverpool and Woking, so we're talking sort of mid 1800s here.
Just after 1800s, yeah. About 1800s.
Yeah, so it's the 19th century, and it's interesting because over here up in the northeast and South Shields, equally we have one of the oldest Muslim communities from the Yemeni community as well, who came as part of the British cargo ships from Aden, and they docked here in the port of Tyne, and that was in the mid 1800s, and they basically established their own community from that time.
It's been said one of the earliest. It's been said one of the earliest race riots was in this place as well.
Oh, Shields, yeah, I think it was 1919 or something like that.
1919, yeah.
Yeah, right. Something like
somebody
that.
smuggled in a camera to take some photographs as well in the court case.
Yeah. They called it the Black Riots, actually.
That's right. Yeah.
Because it was from the indigenous white community who were also working class.
Working class as well.
Against the Yemeni sailors, and I think the Somalis as well. But because the classic thing of they stole our jobs and they're taking our women and all that sort of stuff. And
nothing's new about that one.
But this, so it's one of the first early riots actually that took place. The first bits of fighting, and it was recorded in the what was it, the Shields Gazette. They recorded it, and they talked about it in the Shields Gazette. You can probably still get it online. But so it's interesting that you've got a community that's been here for so long. And this is the interesting thing, I guess a lot of people are going to ask you, and they'll ask you a lot, AbdulMaalik, is, well, if the Muslims have been interacting with the English for so long, since you said since basically the 700s, right?
Yeah.
And then the 900s. If the Muslims have been here, interacting with the English for so long, and then they start establishing communities, and the one that's written the most about is the communities in South Shields, Liverpool, Woking, Bristol, I think it is. And they've been here for so long, and Cardiff as well, actually. Cardiff is the other one. As a community, we're talking like 150, 200 years now. How long does it take for a community to settle somewhere to be accepted as part of that society? I mean, is 150, 200 years not long enough?
It's a valid question. I think, like with any other community that's came to Britain, there's always been this question with regards to how long it takes for them to be British. So before us, we could look at perhaps the Jewish community. When they came over here, they weren't seen to be too British, and therefore, they anglicized their names. They started doing, some relief type work as well. They started paying for some royal statues, etc., just to fit in. And before that, we even had the Huguenots who came over from the 1600s or so. And again, it was a similar situation. But it's a valid question. When do we, as a Muslim community, get accepted widely as not being a community that's just been around from today, or from post-Second World War, I should say? Because, there are some people, I've even heard them, they said, the immigrant communities. And we're thinking, well, when does an immigrant community stop being an immigrant? They've been born and bred here for 3 generations.
Yeah. Well, it's if the Irish community can be accepted, and the Jewish community can be accepted, and various other communities, like, for example, I know there's a big issue with Brexit and Eastern Europeans now, but prior to Brexit, if you looked at the Polish community, who were here since the Second World War, who were given space to be here.
We, in fact, had the Polish Muslim community here after the Second World War as well.
Polish Muslim community.
Polish Muslim community. They weren't converts, they were born Muslims.
Explain that one. Tell us a little bit about that. I didn't know about this.
That one, I managed to find who the leader was as well, where he was living. They had published even their own prayer timetable, which I've got a copy of as well, a photocopy of it, as well as their own Polish newsletters as well. And this was somebody, he was a corporal within the army as well, and he was seen as the Amir al-Mu'minin as well for the Polish community in exile. They fought alongside the British army against the Nazis as well. But this is a Muslim community we don't get to hear about.
Wow.
Like, you know, where they live. Initially, they were living around Knightsbridge, which had a Polish community there. Then they moved to Ladbroke Grove. And for those of you who know, perhaps under Manar Mosque on Acklam Road, that's the same road where he was living, where they were publishing their own Polish Islamic material as well. So, you know, nowadays we're hearing about some Polish community who are converting to Islam, but they're not the first Polish Muslim community.
So it was after the Second World War, actually.
After the Second World War, yes, they were here.
Because some people might argue that, okay, well, you know, they were accepted because they fought in the war, they helped the Brits, and so on and so forth. But then so did the Indian community, so did the Muslims from different parts of the world. They were involved in both world wars, World War One and World War Two. Obviously, there's a lot of discussion about how they got involved, were they forced into it, were they volunteered into it, and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, if we look at it from the lens of, you know, if somebody is to be classed as part of society, and one of the conditions is, well, did they help us in the war? Then, of course, there's more argument for that, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, that's, but you know, the other thing is, I don't think we should be looking too much in terms of like getting recognition because of our participation in war, because that in itself is it's a discussion in itself. Whilst I recognise it, but we somehow kind of like pigeonholing ourselves to say this is what we've done, we've given to Britain. When in reality, our timeline, what we've actually given to Britain, our contribution to Britain, is a lot more longer.
Yeah, it goes far beyond that. I think that's a very important point. I think it's a very, very important point. We've got some comments there. Jamal, do you want to read out some of the comments that have come through?
Absolutely. What we got now? Barry Orlandi, the Vikings used Abbasid coins as well.
Yeah. I mean, the Vikings, you know, travelled all over the place. And, you know, even when I was at school, I always learned that Vikings were westwards. But when you look at in reality, there's been more written about the Vikings in the Muslim discourses than Western discourses.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
We have evidence of a Viking. I think it was a woman who, her grave, they found some Islamic remnants in there as well.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, you know, there's plenty of that, to coins, clothing, etc., coming from, you know, as I said, the Arab kingdoms, etc. But there are two types of Vikings. If you were from, if you like, the western part of Europe, they described Vikings as the mushriks. But if they were from the western part of Europe or that Middle East, they were being described as the people of the Rus. And, you know, it gives some indication of like where the descriptions come, but essentially they were one and the same.
Interesting.
I can come back to this discussion. Sorry, I need to play Ritter because my Ritter's a bit earlier.
Sorry, say that again?
I need to play Ritter. Sorry.
Yeah, we're going to wrap it up shortly. We're almost finished, inshallah.
I've only got 5 minutes, though.
Okay, you go, and me and Jamal will continue the discussion and jump back on.
I can come back on. Just give me a few minutes.
Jump back on. Jamal, there's a nice, interesting comment here for you, bro, by John Alcock. Yeah,
he says, "Never." You asked the question, when are Muslims going to be accepted? We've been here for 250 years, and then John Alcock, he said, "Never go home."
Well, John Alcock, keep watching this space. Yeah, maybe you'll learn something on tonight's show about the importance of what the Muslim contribution has been to Britain, and what is home. How are you going to describe that? Yeah, so we're going to hopefully you'll learn something from tonight's program. Let's see what we can get from that. Yeah, but yeah, so I think that's a not the best way of looking at it. The best way of looking at it is what is the contribution that any community brings to a society that is positive, and then you can make a judgment on that. Yeah, so it's one of those things. I don't know what your thoughts on that, Jamal. What are your thoughts on that?
And first of all, I'd like to say it's a pleasure to have someone like John actually watching tonight, because obviously, you know, you may be coming from a different perspective, wondering, okay, what are those Muslims up to and stuff like that. But it's really good because, you know, obviously to understand that the contributions, as Abu Tayyib has rightly said, that you cannot deny the contributions that the Muslim community has given to the UK. And Muslims in the UK, we regard ourselves as being British citizens. We don't regard ourselves as being something on the outside. And obviously we all breathe the same air. We all, we shop in the same places. We are part of the same community. And, John, you probably have a Muslim neighbor who you may dislike Muslims, but of a surety, those Muslim neighbors may be helping your mother. If her fence was broken, if she needed something, they'd be helping her with that. And I'm sure that you have within yourselves as well, you would help your Muslim neighbors as well. And that is exactly what the community is all about. So whether you like it or not, these things cannot be denied. And that's why, like I said, it's a pleasure you being here today, because, maybe you can kind of get a little bit more insight as well. And yeah, obviously you can enjoy the rest of the show, and maybe you can contact IDC, come down and visit Newcastle, and obviously you can.
Yeah, man, you're more than welcome to, John. It'll be a pleasure to discuss some of these things, and hopefully remove some of the many misconceptions that you have about Islam and Muslims, and then you will see the value of what Islam actually brings. Yeah, of course, you get good Muslims and bad Muslims, there's no doubt, just like you get good and bad people in every community. But what we're talking about is, what does Islam teach? And it'll be good for us to have that discussion so that you can have a better understanding. And I'm almost certain, when you understand what Islam actually is, what we believe, what we practice, our moral, ethical code of life, I'm pretty sure that you'll be in agreement with most of that's being said, if not all of it. So
yeah,
definitely encourage you.
You'd come running to it, definitely 100%. Like there's many Muslim converts who, maybe might have been a bit antagonistic towards religion as well. But when it just when you cut to the chase and you go to the details, you realize, well, this is actually for me. This is actually absolutely. Yeah.
Look beyond the headlines, John. Look beyond the headlines. Don't buy into the propaganda. Find out for yourself. Find out the truth. We've got another comment by who's that? Dana Qadir.
Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So for those of you who are just coming on with your comments now, inshallah, just want to say jazakallah khair for those of you who made those donations earlier. As I said before, as you can see down the bottom there, you got the link. I'm not part of IDC, so I can really, really push it as much as I need to and as I want to, because there's so many benefits for this now. Like I always say that you got some people, for example, who in your bank account now, you've got money sitting there, right? Now, the thing is, that money that's sitting there, many of us, we have set that money aside, not for a rainy day, but for something like, okay, maybe you're building an extension in the near future. Maybe you're buying a new car, new motorbike, you're buying something, and that money's sitting there, which means that you don't need that money right now. So what better way to invest some of that money than to make a donation to IDC for the dawah, right? And then, inshallah, we got Timmy Rudolph coming and join us, mashallah.
Mashallah. There he is.
Alhamdulillah, we're going to come to you in a second. But yeah, that money's sitting there. It's a fantastic investment. Trust me, because you won't feel the pinch, because that money's sitting there. It's in your savings, right? So you'll still, inshallah, you'll still eat tomorrow. But the thing is, like, the barakah that you will get for that thing that you were saving up for, right? By you taking a bit of money from that, investing it in IDC tonight, right? The not just the rewards that you would get, but the investment that you get, the returns that you will get. It means that when you get that money back, you get it so much more that it will even be better. So I'm asking you tonight to donate, inshallah, and to make some encouragement on here as well. Put a message up saying, I've just donated for IDC, support the cause. Let's work together. We are all agents for the dawah today, inshallah, to make sure you make a donation. And jazakallah khair, those messages that came earlier saying that donations have come in, that's exactly what we want to hear. So keep it going.
There's another one that's coming as well, Jamal, £10 coming on the PayPal. And if you don't have PayPal, by the way, maybe Suhail can put the link on supportidc.com. You can go there. You can do a bank transfer. You can go, if you want to be a regular donator, you can go to idcsupporter.com. If you want to text dawah, the word dawah, to 70085, and then it will just come straight out £10 donation. So look, there's so many ways that you can do this. So let's try and encourage everybody to do it. Anyway, we've got AbdulMaalik is back, but we also got our brother Rudolph. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Glad you made it, bro.
Yeah, alhamdulillah.
See you, Rudy. Good to see you, mashallah.
Likewise, man. Long time, bro.
Yeah, it is, yeah. The last time was at the event, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last time, when did I see AbdulMaalik as well? SubhanAllah.
It's been a while since we met. It's been a while since we last seen each other.
It should be part of the history tours, bro. It's been so long.
I like that. We definitely tonight. We definitely have to make sure that we find out more details about the actual tour itself, because the one that I went on, mashallah, was so enjoyable, so informative as well. AbdulMaalik, I've known you for quite some time. I think not obviously we don't have that much engagement, but we know each other from a little while. And I would consider you to be a bit of a dark horse, right? Because mashallah, I've spoken to you on many occasions, but when I went on that tour, and then this person just came up with that red fez, and I just thought, wow, it was just amazing. He had the microphone and he started to give all this information, and it was brilliant. I really, really enjoyed it. And I would actually, the one that I went on, I would actually willingly go again quite happily, inshallah. And I probably will do when all this lockdown and stuff is over. But if it's okay to ask, it's like, just in terms of like the content, if it's all right, AT, to ask this question now.
Man, let's see what kind of packages that you have on the Muslim history tours. What do you cover? If somebody wanted to come on it, bro, blast it, man. Let's see what's going on.
I mean, people can go to, can I mention the website if you're okay with that?
Of course, go for it, bro.
Yeah, people can just go to MuslimHistoryTours.com. That will get redirected to HalalTourismBritain. We have the list of guided tours, cruises, etc. Whatever services we have, it's on there, and you can choose whether it's morning, afternoon, or evening, and you can choose what guided tour you wish to have. And the most common one is Central London, because that's more touristic, and that's obviously where people like to see, for example, like Parliament Square, Whitehall, Trafalgar Square, and the Gallery. So that's the most popular tour. And on that tour, you can even see, like, for example, we go to a site where Arabic was being taught in the 1600s. Who would imagine that? Opposite Parliament, a place that taught Arabic. You just never imagined that. You'll also get to see a plaque that has the Hijri calendar written on it as well. Would you imagine that in Britain, in Central London? That's something for Tommy Robinson to think about. What's the Muslim connections to the world famous Trafalgar Square? It has at least 5 Muslim connections to Trafalgar Square, but people don't know about it. And it's just like, who were the early Muslim visitors then? What were they doing? What were they seeing? Where did they have their dinner as well? We take you to all these places where people can discover this. And the rate is £30 for an adult, and it's £16 for a child who's 8+. And some people may think that this is expensive, but in reality, when you compare it to a guided tour in any Western international capital city, this is quite competitive rate it is, as well as in this case you have somebody who's professionally qualified, and there's a specialism as well, which should in fact be a lot more when you think about it. But there is a family price as well.
Okay, so you mentioned there's 5 interesting things about Trafalgar Square. Give us one. Give us one of the interesting things. 1 out of 5. Then they can book onto your tour to get the other story.
Okay,
you gotta give them a piece there, You gotta give them something.
I'm gonna tease you guys as well. Okay, did you know that there's a Muslim crescent in Trafalgar Square?
No, I didn't know that.
That's been there for over 200 years.
Wow.
I'm not going to tell you where it is, but I'm going to tell you another Muslim connection itself. Now, if you have a look at the bottom of Nelson's column, you have 4 sides to it, what's known as a relief, and which is like a 3-dimensional image. And on one of the sides, at the back side of Nelson's column, facing more towards the fountain, there is a relief that says there, Nile 1798. So that is an actual Battle of the Nile that took place in 1798. And that was when Britain was allies with the Ottomans in order to defeat the French. Lots of families have been to Trafalgar Square, but they don't read this finer detail.
That's
You've
amazing.
got also something on top of Nelson's head, which sticks out like that. I don't know if you noticed it. Any images? Yeah.
Yeah.
This is called a chelak. What is a chelak? A chelak was given to Nelson by Sultan Selim III for his services to the Ottomans, and it was made of gold. So not gold. This is if there's any sisters here that will like this part. It was made of diamonds. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And this, this chelak got auctioned, and then it got so the official one, the actual one, got actually auctioned, and then it got a family member bought it, and then it got re-auctioned again. Then it went to the National Maritime Museum in Greenwich. And what happened there in the 1950s? And I've got a copy of a photograph as well. Unfortunately, what happened? Some burglars broke in and they stole it. So till this day, we have no idea where this chelak has actually gone. We have no idea. This is, as I say, national lost Muslim treasure.
Wow.
You heard of Nicolas Cage's film, maybe like, National Treasure? This is the Muslim version.
National Muslim treasure, yeah?
Yeah, it's lost. These are some of the connections we just don't know about Trafalgar Square. If you go to the galleries, generally people find that Black and Asian people don't go to galleries because they can't relate to. All you keep seeing, as I say, European individuals, etc. But then if you look more finely into the details, there are some portraits that cover that you can have Muslim connections as well, have landscapes which have been done in Muslim countries as well, but you just don't know about them. I mean, it's like a famous, there's a famous Muslim who came here in the 1700s, Ayub Suleiman Tailor, who was a black Muslim from West Africa. He got, as we say, kidnapped, put into slavery, shipped off to America, worked on the plantation. He's won his freedom because of his status. He was an alim. He comes to Britain in the 1700s, and a portrait's done about, a portrait's done of him. Where does it sit? It sits in the National Portrait Gallery.
Wow.
People don't know this, although it's owned by the Qatari Investment Authority. It's on long-term loan in the National Portrait Gallery. But that's that's a famous portrait in England. It's, you have a black Muslim who's a free person, and his portrait, it's just him as the sitter. It's not him in the on the edges of the portrait like commonly what you find black people in the European portrait. It's just him, and he's looking at you. And there's a whole story about him. And just having said that, there's even a recent book that's came out that's called The Uncommon Slave as well. And this is a fantastic book. If somebody wants to, it's called An Uncommon Slave. And it's a story of Ayub Suleiman Tailor, an uncommon slave. And if you go into Amazon, there's actually a discounted price at the moment. But when you think about what book do we know about that describes the life of a Muslim, the earliest. This is in fact one from the 1700s, which was one of the earliest. It's not the earliest, but it's one of the earliest.
One of the earliest, yeah. That's
amazing. Which talks about his what his life he spent here, what he was doing, who did he meet, where did he dine, and as well as what dawah he was doing as well, as well as the fact that he wrote here 3 Qur'ans from memory. When you think about the Qur'an in itself, we normally look at what the Qur'an, that's the fragments of the Qur'an from Birmingham that are kept at Birmingham University.
That's right.
Ayub Suleimani's Qur'an, non-existent. There's no discussion.
Subhanallah.
Why?
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't make sense.
Absolutely. And this is him as a Muslim writing in England. As far as I can tell, this is the earliest Qur'an that's written by a Muslim in Britain.
Right. That's amazing. I mean, so much interesting history there, AbdulMaalik, and I definitely recommend everybody to go on the Muslim history tours. Inshallah, as soon as I get the opportunity, I'm going to do it as well.
Once we're out of lockdown.
Yeah, once it's locked lockdown thing is over, yeah.
But having said that, I am actually running some online sessions now as well, where we can have like a virtual tour, maybe of the British Museum, National Portrait Gallery as well. National Portrait Gallery is closed for 3 years now, so you won't be able to see Ayub Suleiman's portrait in person.
Okay. But yeah, definitely, I recommend everybody to check out your website as well, MuslimHistoryTours.com, right?
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
Okay, we've got a comment here by Midge. I'm not personally a Muslim, but I've always thought Islam is the most interesting religion. I have a lot of Muslim friends. Yeah, you know what, Midge? Islam is a very interesting religion. It is something which you will find fascinating the more you research it with an open mind. Rudolph, bro, give some advice to Midge about this.
Well, alhamdulillah, there's 3 reverts in this thing we're watching now, isn't it? So,
We converts to Islam, exactly.
Somebody's odd one out.
So what advice are you going to give Midge, Rudolph?
Yeah, to have an open mind in and start asking the friend questions, her friend, he or she's friend questions about Islam, inshallah. See what they say. Have a dialogue.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of Muslim friends, they said.
Yes. Yeah, got a lot of Muslim.
AbdulMaalik,
what's your advice to Midge? Give Midge some advice.
I mean, I would definitely say, look, if you've got Muslim friends, speak to them. They may be more open than like the Muslim friends that I had. They may give you the Quran, or you yourself may want to, visit a mosque, or as I say, the Diversity Centre in Newcastle as well. They may, you may wish to actually, have the Quran, but read the Quran with an open mind. If you have anything in terms of any questions or whatever, by all means approach the Muslims. And if there's any doubts or clarities you wish to have, clarified, then obviously I'm sure they would help you out. But I wouldn't say delay it. You've done something good here, where you've actually, you came on this session, and that to me shows you're kind of like one step closer. In terms of actually helping you find out what exactly is Islam.
Yeah. And Jamal, what's your advice, bro?
Yeah, mashallah. Well, Midge, first thing is, as Rudolph said, there's 3 converts here to Islam. First thing, Midge, is that it's possible that your friends may not actually know that much about Islam. They might do, they may not do. They're Muslims. They might be born Muslim, they might be converts, and all they know is they love their religion, right? But they may not have that much information, so don't be put off if you ask certain questions that they can't answer. It's not a problem. We do have some other resources that you can go to. Obviously, you're on IDC's live stream. They're based in Newcastle, but also there's a fantastic website as well. If you don't mind me mentioning it, it's a website which is called, and don't write this down if you can, onereason.org. Right, onereason.org. You're going to find some fantastic resources there that's going to help you to have a really good understanding of Islam. And you might even end up being able to educate your friends as well. And that day, when that day comes, which it could be tonight, Midge, is a very, very, or it could be a very, very special night for Muslims. It could potentially be what we call the night of power. And it was the night where the Quran was revealed to our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So what that means is it's a very special night, and it has the value and the weight of any good deed which is done on this night. If it's a night of power, it's the equivalent to you get the rewards of like 1,000 months, right? 1,000 months, which works out to be about 85 years or something like that of extra rewards. So it's a very, 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 very special night. And even if it's not the night of power, it's still a special night for us Muslims in Ramadan. So if you have an interest in Islam, tonight before you go to sleep, say a little prayer, put your hand up and ask for guidance. Visit onereason.org. We've got some videos on there. Find out more about IDC. And one day, inshallah, you can come back to us and just let us know, about the day when you've actually become a Muslim. We're really happy to have you.
Alhamdulillah, amazing. And on that note, I think that's a good way to finish the show. I think that was a nice little comment there at the end. In contrast to John Alcock's Never Go Home. John, you need to read the Quran, my friend, and you need to understand Islam better. All right, so maybe you will change your views about Islam too, just like Midge has. in their experience with Islam and Muslims. So on that note, guys, I want to thank our brother AbdulMaalik Tailor. Bro, is there any final comments that you want to say before we wrap the show up?
Before you go, Malik, just a very quick thing, and this is to help Abdul Malik as well. I have been on Muslim history tours. I think it's amazing. I went on the Windsor one. Was it Windsor?
Windsor cruise, yes. Yeah.
I went on the Windsor cruise. It was really fantastic. Make sure you go. We had tea. I felt like a snob. I had my little pinky finger up. It was like tea and biscuit, cake, whatever, and sandwiches. It was really, really good. You must go on it. But Abdul Malik as well. Before you round up as well, maybe consider, if you haven't done it already, I want like a mystery. There should be a Muslim mystery tour, because I would pay loads of money for that, bro. So
there is something in development, like some sort of treasure hunt as well in central London as well.
Yeah, fantastic. That's it from me, inshallah.
But my closing words was, look, folks, love your Muslim heritage in Britain. Yes, we look at the Ottomans. Yes, we look at Andalus as well as in Europe. But some of us are born, bred here, and we're educated. We'll be staying here, but we don't know our own heritage, and especially when we've got our kids. They find difficult to relate to heritage in Britain. And one of the ways you can actually strengthen them to actually challenge the Islamophobia as well, in fact, amongst the adults as well, is learning about our own heritage in Britain, as well as, I definitely say, donate to the Islamic Dawah Diversity Centre as well in Newcastle. They seem to be doing some fantastic work for X amount of years. I've known Abu Tayyib virtually, you say, like WhatsApp and everything like that for numerous years, but it's absolutely, with any Dawah organization, especially this one, they do need funds where they can actually operate, as well as give the Dawah to the potential reverts as well.
Jazakallah khair. Let's wrap it up there. Nice to see you, brothers. And we'll be back tomorrow. Tomorrow could potentially be the last show of Ramadan, as well as the last of Ramadan. So we're going to be back with one of my friends from Leicester, Brother Riaz Khan, who's going to be talking about his life as a hooligan, Muslim hooligan. So that's going to be an interesting show. Make sure everybody tunes in for that one, all right? And on that note, assalamu alaikum, everybody.